Hello students! I'm really excited for this sculpt with me because I'm going to start doing it a little bit different. This is by far the most popular thing and probably the most valuable teaching material that I provide. So I'm going to expand on it a little bit more. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a time lapse of what I created. That way you have like an overview of what this is going to look like, and then show you bits and pieces that are the most challenging in real time. So let's get rolling with that. Here is the Yeti I'm going to be talking about today, focusing mostly on this face. But here is the whole model right now. This is like 98% done. There's a few touch-ups like in here, I might fix that, but here he is. Very winter, very on theme. Alright, let's bring up the speed sculpt. This is what I started with. I started with a monkey. This is from ZBuilder Animals. Or is it? No, this is the people one. There's just a monkey slider. So I just picked a monkey and just made it full monkey. I didn't do like any human on this, because Yetis are pretty much just like a monkey with a fursuit on, which is pretty much how I approached this. Again, this is way too fast to really like get a ton from, but I think it's really good to get an overview of. I initially planned on maybe just sharing the speed sculpts, but I don't think this is very helpful for a brand new beginner. But again, so here's the head. I made it super low res Dynamesh, kind of carved out where the mouth cavity is, and I kept it really low poly. I think a lot of people get discouraged around here because it looks, bad, and that's okay. You're really trying to find your main shapes here. You can tell he has eyes, a nose, cheekbones, ears. It sounds really like basic, but honestly, once you get those where you want them to be, see right here, I add like just this little eye bag, bam, eyes look 100% better. That's the part I'm really going to be showing you guys today. But I still wanted to play this full like 2-minute video. I struggled with horns here for a little bit. I didn't know what I wanted. He started looking like Loki to me here because of the horn shape. I tried to fight that, but it looks fine. Anyway, I think it's important to show you guys what this whole process looks like, because the bulk of the work is done in the beginning, the block out. So at the end of this 2-minute video, he pretty much looks the way I want him to look, and all the rest of the time is just spent doing like small adjustments, getting the pose or the right weight and that kind of stuff. But what I'm trying to say is if you get your block out and your first steps and fundamentals looking really good, the rest of it's like especially fun and relaxing. There's not a whole lot of brain power going on. This is where all of my thinking happens. And after this, I can just, zone out, put on a bunch of music, and just get to town detailing. All right, almost done with this. You can see, bam, there we have it. Obviously, this isn't super detailed, but this is pretty much what the model looks like finished. Let's kind of visit. Bam. It's really not that different. And once I learn how to get that block out done as quickly as possible, I'm not kidding, my workflow to getting things done is sped up by like 50%. I can make things way faster than I could have even like 6 months ago. So let's show you guys how I do that. All right, so we're going to focus on the head. The head I'm going to make right now is not going to look fantastic. I'm just trying to get you guys through this demo quickly. But let's get to that. I just have a monkey picked. Pretty basic. Looks very old Ben. I'm going to go down to the lowest resolution. And because I'm just focusing on the head here, I'm just going to grab Mask Lasso, hold Control, drag this little box, Control, and then W. And what that did was it made this a different color. It's called a polygroup. I can select that one polygroup right here. Have the other, since the other one's hidden, I can then go to Geometry, Modify Topology, and then Delete Hidden. There we go. If you don't want these like rough edges right here, you can just like polish by features and it'll just round them out. But I don't really care if those are there or not right now. All right, it's also like weirdly exaggerated because my perspective is 24. I think the human eye seems somewhere around 50, and that's normally how I sculpt. 0 perspective is fine, but I like to sculpt with some perspective usually. Especially if you're sculpting a head, if you have 0 perspective, it's gonna look really flat compared to what it actually is. All right, let's get to it. Okay, so the first thing we're focusing here is like the mouth. This might be a Yeti if you want to do a Yeti, and if you did that, just make sure you give him more of like a forehead. I'm just grabbing the move brush, really simple. And then I'm actually going to use my mask brush again. Grab this ear, so it's just isolated. You can invert your selection by Control and Tab. Back to my move brush, and just kind of drag this shape down. Which is how I created those ears, just really quickly. All right, good enough. Gonna bring this expression down, looking a little angrier. The move brush is super powerful, and you'll see me use it a lot, and I know a lot of people find it challenging because the move brush is very sensitive to how you're looking at your model. So if I am looking at this angle just straight on, and I pull straight up, that looks a certain way. But if I angle it just like this and then pull straight up, see it's coming off of the model. So just know that your angle really matters there if you're struggling with that. All right, now let's get to the mouth. I'm gonna bring the jaw down. And now you can use shift with a smooth brush to kind of help you out. Depends what base mesh you're working with, or if you're working with a base mesh at all, you could totally do this with just a sphere. I recommend using a base mesh. It just speeds everything up so much. All right. Whenever you see weird little pieces like this, that's like one polygon thick, and you can't smooth that away. ZBrush doesn't like to. You have to adjust your smooth brush modifier. So go to brush, smooth brush modifier, and just change your min connected points to 1. So now I have pressed shift to smooth. You'll see that it'll go away. Okay. So right now, oh, by the way, I don't know if I said already, but this colored view that I'm getting back and forth is called the wireframe. I'm doing that with Shift F. All right. So just kind of get like a loose mouth shape. It's going to look really silly. And just to prove my point, let me go back to this guy here. Let me grab his head in solo. This is what that head looks like. I think that might be helpful for you to know. So if you're like, oh my goodness, this doesn't look good. Good. That means you're doing it right. All right. Getting this rough shape. Kind of pushing his nose up. Really trying to get this really heavy, angry look because, you know, he's yelling. And now the next thing I want to do is I want to make sure his mouth goes back, but not too far back because I make things 3D printable. I don't want this to be like this giant hole because I have to support it somehow. And I don't want to have to do that. So this is good enough. All right, you need to start creating the structure to the mouth now. So go to Subtool, Append, and you can really grab any shape you want. I'm going to go with a cube because that seems pretty close to the shape I want. It was a color for some reason, so I held spacebar and just dragged it to white. You might not need to do that. That's just where I was at. All right, W for this 3D gizmo, and then I grab my little square, shrink it way down. Looks like he has one big tooth. And right now I'm just shaping, I don't know what this bone is called right here, but it's like, you know, where your gums are. I'm going to go to Geometry and Dynamesh. I'm going to Dynamesh with a little bit more resolution. I want to have some polygons. And then I'll grab my move brush. It should curve with the mouth. If you notice that only one side is moving, like this, that's just because symmetry is not turned on. So you can click X and then you'll have 2 little dots and then it should work. That looks fine. You can do the same thing for the bottom, or you can just click Duplicate in your Subtool menu here. W for 3D Gizmo, bring it down, and then you can rotate it. So now if you rotate with symmetry, it gets very upset. So click X for turn off symmetry, and then you can rotate it. If you want to rotate it exactly, hold Shift, and you'll see at the bottom here in white, it's kind of hard to see, it's white on white, but right here, and you can go to 180, so it's a perfect flip. Click X again for symmetry, and then stick it down there. So I went too far down with the lip, but that's no worry. Can adjust that. I'll do that right now. If you notice, I'm going back and forth between different subtools really easily without going over here. If you hold Alt and then tap, you will automatically select whatever subtool you're on. So I can show you right here. Just hitting Alt and clicking. There we go. The lip looks a little bit better. Alright, this is a decent start. Also, while we're here, I'm going to grab clay buildup and just maybe add some more volume to the bottom of these eyes. Just kind of scribbling back and forth. Makes it look nicer. I don't have eyeballs right now. I mean, these are there, but I don't think they look super great. So it looks really strange right now. But that's for a different tutorial. Let's make some teeth. And go to Append, Sphere, and shrink this down. Once you have it small like this, I stretch it in one direction, click on this little gear, go to Taper, just like that. And then go back to this and then choose Bend Arc. Then you have a little tooth. Now there's a lot you can do. It depends like what kind of, what you want your teeth to look like. Something like that looks good to me. I'll usually grab Trim Rectangle and just kind of like lop the top off of it just to make it easy to work with, but you don't have to. Your teeth do have roots, they go pretty far up, so if you want to be super realistic, you could do that. I also like adding some texture to my teeth usually. So I will go to Geometry, Dynamesh, make sure it's at a somewhat high resolution. Or again, Dynamesh is dependent on how big the item is in your scene. Look at my lesson to really get a lot more info on that. But there's no like perfect number. It might be different depending on what you're working on. Okay, this is kind of a cool texture trick. I use this for wood, for weathering, all kinds of stuff. Go to Dam Standard, which is in your brush palette. Click on B if you don't know where that is. Hold spacebar, click on Brush Alpha, and then this one right here. That was a little fast. For me, it's 60, but it'll depend how many alphas you have. And then I just go to wherever I want, and then see how that's way too heavy and has symmetry turned on? Click X, turn off symmetry, reduce your Z intensity by a lot, and then just like gently brush on it. You'll get some nice weathering. I use this way too often. You could use just normal Dam Standard and like hand carve this, but look how much faster that was. All right, we now have a tooth. I highly recommend looking at a reference when you're doing teeth for any sort of monster, because there's just like some general rules that are always going to be true. I already can't remember because I'm not looking at a reference, but like your top canines, I can't remember if they're on the outside or inside of your bottom canines, but there's a rule there and it's always true. I'm just gonna put them together right now, but just know that there is a rhyme and reason to all of this for sure. And you always should be using references. Okay, there's one tooth. I will go to, you can click duplicate right here or Control-Shift-D. And I just manually move these around. Once I have more than one tooth, I can also hold Control and drag. And this is really cool because it duplicated it, but it doesn't make another subtool. It's still within the same subtool. You can make your teeth as ugly or as staggered as you want, but I've noticed that doing them one by one, like hand by hand, makes them look a lot nicer. I really encourage you, don't make them look too perfect. It makes them look really weird otherwise. All right, I'm gonna go back to this initial canine and click Mirror and Weld. Mirror and Weld for me is on my custom UI, but it's also Geometry, I believe Modified Topology. Mirror and Weld, yes, there it is. All right, I can mask this one tooth and then just make it a little crooked. Asymmetry is your best friend here when you're doing like gnarly teeth. All right, so now we have a row of teeth. These are a little long, but I mean, it's your monster, do teeth however you want, but generally speaking, they'll be super short like that. Also notice I'm making them really thick, but I do that because I design for 3D printing. If you don't need to. You can make them a lot more thin and like realistic like that. But I make them really exaggerated so they're easy to print and paint. All right, I'm gonna merge these down, duplicate them, turn off symmetry, and then I'm gonna spin them around just like I did earlier. This is like the lazy, easy way of doing this. You could just leave it like that, but I highly recommend changing the teeth a little bit on the bottom because they are different. There we go. And now something that we were missing is the tongue. Pen, sphere. Oh, I'm zooming out really quickly by clicking F. It'll automatically frame to whatever subtool you have. It's a really nice little trick. All right. Just doing my little deformers and gonna shape the tongue. I'm also gonna go back to Dynamesh so I have lots of room to adjust this tongue however I want. Tongues are actually a lot of fun to sculpt, and they can really change the tone of your model. Like, I can make this really gross and ghoulish, you know? But I'm not sure if this is a Yeti tutorial as opposed to just like how to do, you know, creepy mouth. But we'll make it as close to the Yeti as possible, since that's what my example was. Alright. Also note that poly painting goes a really long way. This being totally colorless, if you don't think your model is feeling or looking the way that it's supposed to, it's possible just because your brain wants to see color there. That's how I am anyway. That's why I paint all of my stuff. It just makes it a lot easier for me to do my work and be excited about it. Looking pretty scary. Alright, I'm going to delete these weird eye placeholders so I can tell there's another mesh there. And the way I can do that is go to Polygroup. Where is Polygroup? I really wish this was alphabetical. There we go. Auto groups, and you can see them right there. So Control-Shift to select the polygroup I want, and then I can delete hidden. And there we go. And now I have empty space to put in new eyes. I'll go to my primitive brush, insert sphere, and just click and drag. Put some eyes in there. There we go. I don't want something that is attached to that mesh, so the eyes aren't affected. I don't want the eyes to be all deformed. The eyes should be spherical regardless. So once I'm done with that, I'll go to Split Mask Points, which is Geometry, Split, somewhere. There's a subtool. I'm so used to my custom UI, I forget where things are. There we go. Subtool, Split, and Split Mask Points. So now my eyeballs are a different piece. Let's go back to this main mesh here, and then I can kind of fix that eyelid line. This is looking kind of ghoulish, but the way that what really makes it look like a Yeti is all that fur. So I'll show you guys how I did that, because I did it really quickly. Have your mask lasso brush, mask a section, go to extract, turn on double. This is nice because it just prevents you from having too thin of a mesh, and then click on extract. That's a little thin, so I'll increase it a bit. There we go. Accept. And notice it's masked still, so Control, and then just drag a little box off to get rid of that. And I can go in here and press smooth, and then go back in with inflate. And the way I get that fur texture is through a lot of practice with the move brush. And I'll show you what I'm talking about right now. Try and get the fur out of the mouth. I don't know what happened there. Here. Let me do a little adjustment here. I'm gonna go to Polygroups, Auto Groups, and just get rid of this inside section that accidentally extruded as well. Where is delete hidden? There we go. I forgot how to use my own custom UI sometimes. Alright, so the way I do fur really quickly is I just grab my move brush and I make sure like the focal shift's around 0, and I usually have intensity somewhat high. Right now it's 51. And I'm really careful what angle I'm looking at, and then I start pulling fur chunks down in the direction I want. You'll notice that I do a lot of undos to get the exact stroke that I want, and then once I find one I like I think that looks pretty nice, I just start pulling a bunch of sections out. And I'm slowly rotating the camera as I do it. This one is definitely a feel thing. I encourage you to find what technique you like doing fur with, but that's kind of just like the quick and dirty one that I use. And then I detail on top of those shapes. There we go. And then we do the same thing for the, I don't know, his hair? I don't know what to really call it. Like, you know, whole body is covered in fur. Oh yeah, so see, it actually had, whenever you extract, it will keep your previous mask selection there unless you undo it. So let me get rid of that. I did that, by the way, so it's Control to mask, or Control and Alt to unmask. And there we go. And then kind of the same deal with the move brush where I grab a bunch of sections of fur and kind of pull them off. I want to add a little bit of fur to this because it looks really strange without it. That way you can kind of see a little bit more of the vision of where this is going to go. This kind of looks like a baby version of the Yeti I just did. More adolescent, this looks more adult. I ended up doing a lot of this with perspective turned off, which is fine. But there, that's kind of like a live demo of how that came together, and hopefully that wasn't too long. But you just keep adjusting the proportions, and that's really key. And whenever you're working on faces like this, even with like humans, doesn't matter the creature, make sure you create this under eye bag. Because, you know, the eye behind the skin right there does extend downward. So you need that bottom bulge. Otherwise, it'd be like if their eye was just like a half sphere, but it's not. Your eyeball is a full circle. So make sure you have that bottom bulge there. And then on monsters, I like to really exaggerate because it looks creepy. Oh, I also like adding little bumps on the tongue. I think that does really nicely for adding detail and texture. Oh, this one looks so much uglier. But you know, it's a nice quick demo. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed that. Let me know if there's another creature that I've done that you'd like me to cover, or if there's anything else on this specific Yeti you guys want to see more of, like maybe how I did just the fur on the entire body or detail, let me know. I'm more than happy to do it. Alright guys, I will see you in the next one. Bye!